Welcome, everyone. We are so glad to have you with us at Speaking Volumes. My name is Leanda Abraham. I'm a board member here at Pongo Poetry Project, and I am so excited to be your MC for the evening. This very special event supporting an even more special mission is made possible with support from our incredible partners, BECU and Sound Health. We're grateful to each of them for their generous contributions. Before we go any further, we want to acknowledge that we gather on land that was stolen from the Duwamish and Coast Salish peoples, who continue to be the true stewards of this land. We acknowledge the sacrifices of Indigenous Africans whose stolen labor was used to work this land, and we honor their descendants' struggle for reparations. And we acknowledge immigrant communities whose contributions continue to deepen and diversify the cultural fabric of the nation that occupies this land. I also want to take a moment to thank the Pongo community, to our board members and table captains with us tonight. We cannot thank you enough for your contributions to this event. Your generosity and your partnership were critical in making this event a reality. So thank you for spreading the word about tonight's event, advancing Pongo's mission, and championing our work. We also have a number of current and former Pongo writing mentors with us this evening. Our mentors donate their time to work with the young people we serve and support them in writing healing poetry. Each of you bring our mission to life. The young people we serve are so fortunate to benefit from your talent, your empathy, and commitment. And we also thank our entire community, our Pongo family, for your unwavering support over the years. We've already raised $6,000 so far. Tonight is the perfect opportunity to join the ranks of Pongo supporters and partner with us in delivering on our mission. We are well within reach of our $25,000 goal, and with your support, we will cross the finish line tonight. Your donations will bring Pongo's therapeutic poetry programming to vulnerable youth across the country. And there are a few ways to give. First, using your phone, you can text Pongo to 801-801 and follow the instructions. Or from your computer, you can click on the link in the YouTube description to make a gift on our donation page. Alternatively, you can check your email for a link to give as well. But while we're on the topic, I've got some pretty exciting news to share. Thanks to the generosity of an anonymous donor, all donations raised tonight will be doubled until we raise $10,000. That means if we raise $10,000 tonight, we actually bring in $20,000 for Pongo youth. Pongo is growing across the country to reach more youth with our healing intervention. And in light of this growth and the generosity of our anonymous supporter, we are asking you to grow with us. So if you planned on making a gift of $50 tonight, consider contributing $100 to make the most of this unique opportunity. Now, if you're anything like me, you're going to want to know how we're progressing throughout the evening, but don't you worry, we are going to update you on the progress we're making together throughout the event. So settle in, grab yourself a drink or two, and get ready for a wonderful evening. As many of you know, Pongo's mission is to engage youth in writing poetry to inspire healing and growth. Tonight, we're going to share tangible examples of that mission in action and invite you to join us in expanding our healing impact on young people. We'll hear from the young people we serve and the community leaders we partner with as they share how Pongo has transformed their lives and work. And we'll hear from former Seattle Youth Poet Laureate, Mateo Acuna, who we're so excited to have as our guest of honor. Mateo is a dynamic and moving poet who shares our commitment to youth self-expression and healing. And you'll learn about how youth self-expression, particularly through poetry writing, is a vital and healing resource, especially for the young people we serve. So we want to kick off Speaking Volumes with a perfect example of the power of youth self-expression. Much of Pongo's work takes place in the Seattle area, but having connected with youth across the country in recent years and engaged them in Pongo programming, we know that young people are clamoring for Pongo opportunities. Through Well-Versed, Pongo's Pongo Poets Online, our online poetry submission program, we're able to connect with a number of youth nationwide throughout the year. We respond to each young person with affirmation of their work and encouragement to continue their creative pursuits. And for the past decade, Pongo has been proud to present the Pongo Poetry Prize. The prize is awarded on an annual basis for poetry submitted through Well Versed. Noah is a 14-year-old poet based in Philadelphia who discovered Pongo through Well Versed and shared his poetry with us last year. We are honored to have Noah share his brilliant piece, Rice on a Roller Coaster, with us tonight, along with his perspective on the value of Pongo.
Rice on a roller coaster. Rice on a roller coaster. Water simmering. Hail blowing out the window. Radio playing, and I don't know how to say this any better, but I'm freaking out about so many things I don't know how to describe. About consciousness and evolution. And there's some psychos just programming everything in my world. But even if that's happening, then it's still my world, right? But if it's our world, then why are we messing it up so badly? Then the radio puts on a story about Palestine and genocide and hostages, and from the river to the sea. And why do I have a right to think about these deep questions when kids my age are being kidnapped, then bombed, hollowed out? And by the way, the fireflies are dying, and so are the butterflies and the bees and birds and everything I care about. And maybe I'm just being naive for thinking that planting a few oaks can fix everything, but what else can? Some bill that never gets passed until they're already gone. But my mind switches back to complexity and entanglement. And why did my grandma give us the 101 plastic cookie cutters that we don't need and are just exacerbating our planet's stress? And why are we so fixated on what present Santa's going to get us for Christmas, when we don't even know if we have free will and why we exist, or if there's God? Maybe we just like the rice in the pot, just going along for the ride. I just thought the process was really amazing, and I really like having a space where I can publish my poems and access other young people's work. It makes me feel very empowered and inspired.
Can we get a round of applause for Noah? I know I speak for all of us at Pongo in saying that Noah's poem exemplifies the urgency of our work. The confusion and angst Noah describes, how he used poetry to make sense of the world around him, and the catharsis he experienced through both writing and sharing his poetry are exactly why we do this work. Thank you, Noah, for sharing your piece with us. We can't wait to see what you do next. It is now my honor to introduce our guest of honor, Mateo Acuna. Mateo Acuna is a Peruvian-American poet, writer, and visual artist. Mateo currently serves as the Auburn Poet Laureate and concluded his term as the Seattle Youth Poet Laureate earlier this year. And Mateo's first chapbook, Dear Spanish, was released in June of this year. We encourage everyone watching to pick up a copy of his magnificent collection via our friends at Elliott Bay Books. And somehow, between all of that, Mateo had the time to join us at Speaking Volumes this year, which we are incredibly grateful for. Joining Mateo will be Pongo's co-executive director of development and finance, Nebu Shemeles. Please give a warm welcome to Mateo and Nebu.
Thank you so much, Leanda. Everyone at home tonight, thank you so much for being here with us. And Mateo, it's a treat to be able to speak with you tonight, so thank you for being here. Let's dive in, shall we? I think you know, at Pongo, our work is right at the intersection of youth mental health, poetry, and systemic injustice. We work with young people in confined settings, places like prisons, where young people have experienced systemic and interpersonal harm, whether that be on the basis of race or class, and are working through coping with their trauma. So for us at Pongo, we believe that poetry is a way for young people to be able to unlock their self-expression and work towards their healing. So I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about the role that poetry plays in your life and what the writing and creative process offers you?
Yeah, poetry has played a huge role in my life. It's a way of thinking, and it's a way of processing emotions. It kind of forces you to confront them and put onto words, you know, what you've been. It's a vessel you know, and it's helped me a lot in various times of my life when things are just difficult. Like when I was in high school, I wasn't out as trans. It was not a very safe place, and writing was always a refuge for me. I spent a lot of time just writing, even if nobody else saw it. That was what like kept me going so much of the time, and sometimes not even talking about specific issues that you're facing, but anything can help. And then later I would look back and see themes, undercurrents of my own problems, even if I wasn't directly talking about them. So I was still working through it, sometimes under the guise of fiction or more directly with poetry. And I think that's why it's really important to have an organization like Pongo, because if you just go into writing about something deeply traumatic, sometimes it can only hurt more. But when you have mentors that can help guide you through that, know when to push, know when to step back, then you can really do very powerful healing. And poetry has definitely changed my life in that way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. One of the things we talk about in our trainings on the Pongo method is how poetry can be sort of a safe container for folks to be able to talk about experiences they might not be able to maybe consciously think about. And so I hear a lot of that in what you're talking about now. So thank you for sharing. So on that note about writing mentors, a key element of our work at Pongo is connecting young people with trained adult writing mentors, and they support young people in the poetry writing process. So I want you to think back to the first person, or maybe it was a community of people that encouraged you to explore poetry and writing. Can you describe what that experience was like and what impact it had on you?
Yeah, huge impact. I was in a teen writers group in Auburn. It was the very first any sort of group outside of, an English class assignment in school. I was 15. And it was led by then Auburn Poet Laureate Susan Landgraf. I didn't know what a poet laureate was. I didn't know that I would go on to become a poet laureate. I didn't even really write poetry that much. But she was the one that encouraged us to do that. It was the only time in the whole group, it was outside of school, that she gave us an assignment. It was one time to write poetry. And I didn't want to do it. I was like, I was into fantasy. It wasn't like, it wasn't a great poem. Like I was just me starting out, and I wasn't really sure, but I liked reading poetry, and she exposed me to a lot of really good poetry. And I realized that I loved reading it, even if I wasn't expressing it the way I wanted to. And it was in her class that I started, her group, that I started exploring things a little bit more tenderly, like vulnerable, that I had only maybe described in metaphors. But because she made me feel comfortable and because she made me realize that I was a good writer. And now I'm the poet laureate of Auburn, and I get to do that for other teens. And it's truly amazing. And I wouldn't be there today if it wasn't for her.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think a great thing that our mentors do, I've had the privilege of watching them work with young people. It's really making a safe space for young people to express whatever's on their mind. And it's through that safe space that young people feel comfortable, maybe to take the leap and start poetry writing if they haven't done that before. So I hear a lot of that in your story as well. So let's talk a little bit about you. So earlier this year, you released your debut chapbook, Dear Spanish. Everyone, Dear Spanish is in stores now, so please pick up a copy. One poem that really stuck with me was Working Men. And in that poem, you talk about coming across an unhoused man who's lying on the sidewalk as you're going about your day. So I was just curious, would you mind sharing more about the inspiration for that piece? And what were you trying to work through in that poem, and what were you trying to communicate through it?
Yeah, so I was a writing teacher with the Bureau of Fearless Ideas, the one on Yesler. And that there are a lot of unhoused people around there. There's been a lot of hardship like in that community. And I was a teacher. I was like, walking from the bus to to the office, and right in front of the office, this person was there. And it was a whole, I mean, you know, it was the morning. It was kind of the very first thing that we were experiencing. Like, we were watching the police come and, you know, get him to get up, and we kind of had to sort of intervene, you know, because he wouldn't leave, and we needed the kids to like come in through the office. But I think it's not, that issue is, we think of it distantly, like it's not, but it's really, I mean, just the proximity made me realize like how connected we all are, and how that issue, it does affect all of us, even as we're going about. And I think in Seattle, we've become really numb to it because we just see it all the time. And a lot of the times sympathy or empathy is lost when it just becomes like a fixture of our daily life. And so that instance stayed with me. And there's another situation in that poem too. There was another unhoused person that was nearby, right next to the construction site for luxury apartments in Yesler Terrace, which has also been really difficult. So I was thinking about that, and I think poetry is a good way to get those things out. Something that's kind of complicated, you're not sure what to make of it, but also it was like a testimony or a witnessing, because, you know, what can you do? But the only thing you can do is share or talk about it rather than ignore it, I think. So that's kind of how that came about.
Yeah, I really appreciated when I was reading it, because I feel like it's such a common occurrence for those of us that are fortunate to have housing, like to come across someone who's unhoused going through something and to just simply ignore it or not say anything about it in the moment and just tuck it away. So I just thought it was a really great interrogation of all the thoughts that are going through your head, the circumstances that led to this person maybe being in this situation, and just recognizing their humanity in that moment. And so I really appreciate it. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece.
Thank you.
So another part of Pongo's work is sharing the work of our youth writers publicly. And so I know, you released your chapbook this summer. So I'm curious about what that experience has been like. Have there been any unexpected benefits to publishing your work and engaging with an audience of readers? And related to that, what, if anything, did you learn about yourself through that process?
Oh yeah. I learned so much about myself. I can be very hard on myself. So when I, finished the poems, there was a deadline. It was part of being the Youth Poet Laureate is you get a book deal, which is great, but also you have this deadline, and you have to get it all, and I had never, written any book before. So I was definitely hard on myself and a little bit of a perfectionist. And now when I looking back, it's been a few months looking through the poems, I'm like, oh, these are fine. Why was I so, worried about it? And I think there's something about publication where there's, it's more polished, where it's going out into the world, and you can't be there as they're reading it and be like, oh, I actually meant this, or, the work has to speak for itself. And I did have to think about what I wanted to put out there, because sometimes I write about my family and some hard, difficult things. And you have to be careful. And with Pongo, a lot of these youth are writing about difficult subjects. And so balancing, because when you're with your mentor or you're with your group, you can write whatever you feel comfortable with sharing. Them, you can build that trust, but then once it's in a book, it's out into the world. But it's been really beneficial, because I can, if someone's like, oh, I really like your work, I say, well, I have a book now. And Before that, I couldn't really put a lot of my poems out because if they're going, like, I couldn't just like post them on social media or something because literary magazines or different magazines have rules about it being posted and whatnot. So it's nice to have a book format. And I think for Pongo, I brought them to the studio. I have like 4 books of Pongos.
Yeah, you can start a library.
Yes. And it's really nice to have it all together in a collection because if somebody's, interested in like bringing poetry to their organization, I have these books. I can be like, you can see, like, look at the work, like it's all there. And I think that's one of the big benefits to Pongo and for the youth to be so courageous in sharing their work.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I know I speak for everyone at Pongo when we say we're proud and grateful to be able to share the work of our youth writers. And to your point about being careful about what we're sharing publicly, one thing I appreciate about Pongo is that we give young people the option. Like, we ask them, like, do you want us to share this work out publicly? Are you comfortable with that? So we let young people be in the driver's seat about that. But I appreciate you. I appreciate that point. Well, Mateo, thank you so much. I just want to say you're an incredible ambassador for poetry. So grateful for you being here tonight. I know you'll be back here a little bit later to share some readings from your catalog. But for now, I will hand it back to Leanda.
Can we give it up for Mateo and Nebu? Thank you for leading that conversation, Nebu. And Mateo, thank you for sharing your insights with us. You exemplify the power of youth self-expression, and we are so thankful for you being with us tonight. Here at Pongo, sharing the work of our youth writers is a key part of our programming, and it's something that inspires the confidence of the young people we serve and connects them with the wider community who engages with their poetry. Pongo works with young people who have been incarcerated, separated from their friends, families, and communities, and often without the support they need to heal, grow, and thrive. One of the Seattle area sites we work in is the Echo Glen Children's Center, a juvenile rehabilitation facility in Snoqualmie. And on a weekly basis, our writing mentors visit the site to support young people in writing poetry about what's on their mind, their fears, frustrations, pain, hopes, and their passions. The following video is the result of a partnership with Lindy Busted, founder of the SHARE program. Through SHARE, she worked with Echo Glen students to transform their Pongo poems into short films. The following short film, based on a piece of Pongo youth poetry from Echo Glen, is called Walk 1 Mile.
I want you to walk 1 mile, just one, in my shoes. I want you to see if they fit. I want you to know how I feel when I'm locked inside of my room.
I want you to understand my pain when I can't see my family and I miss my little brother.
I want you to know what I am capable of. My strength is playing sports and loving my family.
I want you to walk 1 mile, just one, in my shoes.
I want you to see the beauty
The beauty.
in my life.
I want you to know how I express myself. My words might seem aggressive and threatening.
But that's just the way we talk.
I want you to know my heart. My love is like a pot of gold, 'cause I'll give as much as you need.
But the moment that you mess it up, you won't have nothing.
I want you to walk 1 mile, just one, in my shoes.
Do they fit?
If not,
Then maybe you can understand why I am the way I am.
Isn't that beautiful? We want to thank our youth writer from Echo Glen for their powerful piece, and Lindy for collaborating with Echo Glen students to transform it into a short film. Walk 1 Mile exemplifies how Pongo equips young people with the tools to process their hardship express the emotional weight that they're carrying, and begin their paths to healing. One misconception folks have about Pongo is that we direct young people to discuss the most difficult moments in their lives. To the contrary, Pongo offers young people an opportunity to express themselves about whatever is on their mind. Our mentors offer tools, support, and encouragement to young people, but young people are the authors of their poems, not us. And by offering that safe space for them, they often do feel comfortable discussing the pain they've endured. Walk 1 Mile also shows how Pongo poetry writing is a uniquely effective outlet for such frustrations, and how Pongo provides youth with an opportunity to express themselves in their own words about the world and their lives as they see it. Too many young people are left to fend for themselves, navigating abandonment and abuse without support, encouragement, and guidance. Our years of program experience have shown us that self-expression is a necessary precondition for healing. And we believe that every young person deserves to be seen, heard, and affirmed. But we know that opportunities for self-expression and being treated with dignity and respect are few and far between for young people, particularly those who are incarcerated, which makes it incumbent on Pongo to offer that healing experience to more young people nationwide. And Pongo's certification program does just that. Established in 2023, Pongo's certification program equips educators and youth program leaders nationwide with the knowledge, skills, and support to create healing poetry writing programs based on our successful model. Last year, Pongo supported 5 leaders from across the country in establishing and maintaining their healing poetry programs, all founded on Pongo's trauma-informed approach. As a result, Pongo programming was able to support young people across a diverse range of contexts, from youth in a substance abuse recovery center in Pittsburgh, to teens coping with eating disorders in Minneapolis, to unhoused youth in Salt Lake City. What tied these young people together was not only the significant trauma they'd experienced, but a yearning to be heard. As one of our certification program members shared with us, this trauma was deeply stored within their minds and bodies. But Pongo was life-changing, and the process of poetry writing was therapeutic and healing. This year, Pongo is proud to be supporting 9 community leaders in establishing healing poetry programming based on our approach. We have projects reaching South African teens coping with past incidences of gender-based violence, systems-impacted youth in San Bernardino, young people in an inpatient mental health facility in New York City, and more. Put simply, your donations will fuel the growth of our certification program, bringing Pongo's therapeutic poetry programming to vulnerable youth across the country and the world. Got an update for you. Let me grab it. We've already raised just over $1,000 since the last update, and we are $9,000 away from meeting our match. And once again, there are a few ways to give. First, using your phone, you can text Pongo to 801-801 and follow the instructions that come in. Or from your computer, you can click on the link in the YouTube description to make a gift on our donation page. Alternatively, you can check your email for a link to give as well. With that, it is my absolute pleasure to reintroduce our guest of honor. Please welcome Auburn Poet Laureate Mateo Acuna back to the stage. Hello, everyone. We are back. We are so sorry for the technical difficulties, but it does seem that we've got everything sorted out. We are back up and running. So one more time, it is my pleasure to reintroduce our guest of honor. Please welcome Auburn Poet Laureate Mateo Acuna back to the stage.
Hi. We don't know where the video cut off, so I'm just going to start over. You can enjoy my poem again. Okay. Ode to Sir Shirlene. Every morning, the choice rests in the center of my palm between the headline and the lifeline. A fat sprinkle sweating off its smoky blue film from my heat, painting my insides on what was supposed to be my shell. One face is imprinted with 2 letters divided by a scored middle, their meanings unknown or for the illusion of meaning. To me, they stand for inherent grievance, each on either side of a valley made for teeth to bite, where my father and mother collide together and separate where my siblings and I reside. The hidden face ranks our anxiety in birth order, 2, 1, 3. It's a painting of each of us in a line, heads bent, chasing each other's endings like a run-on sentence, like when I pick up my prescription and the pharmacist says, "Would you like to pick up your sister's as well?" and hands me a brown paper bag shrouding sprinkles the color of a cloudless sky, each original feeling clinking against the other in the neon polypropylene tube. Ode to the Coyote. Tan skin, tan voice, square jaw, and white shirt pulled taut, the posture of abstinence. Knots of muscle, broad shoulders, tight hips, slender legs. In high school, they called him Coyote because he was so skinny. Now my father calls himself a gym rat, fighting to get back that slimness, fighting to fill the quiet where the gnawing enters with the wish of weight sliding onto the barbell, fighting age with diet and exercise and secrets. Coyote is a trickster who fools the eye, who makes you believe he could never die. Coyote told the first lie. But his slippery tongue ran off, let loose, and knotted itself in noose no language could untangle, because a coyote is a coyote is a coyote, the same in English and Spanish, a perfect cognate. But understand this, there could be no heroes nor villains, no beginnings nor endings, no happiness nor sorrows without a coyote. My father and I break bread over this word because it cannot become lost in translation like so many others. We eat guiso de papa, sudado pescado, and tallarines rojos over this word. We toast with chicha morada, maracuyá, and Inca Cola over this word. For 20 years, we have sliced panettone on New Year's with this word, our bridge from Trujillo, Peru, to Auburn, Washington, from booming waves of terracotta roofs and tangled telephone wires to dark forests and angled houses huddled close around the heat of the railroad. Here, electricity travels underground, buzzes beneath the concrete, the pep in our step, the caffeine in our veins. Here, coyotes howl at the witching hour like a crowd of crying babies, from the swamp hills across the valley to the farmland laced with electricity pylons like paper chains of pancaked Eiffel towers where he's resided since she left him, waiting for a spark that could only cause a fire. As a child, he watched cartoons from morning to noon, just him and the screen, Wile E. Coyote chasing after the roadrunner again and again and again. And every day I pass a coyote by the side of the freeway just before Golden Given Road, facing away from passing cars. It has been rotting there for 3 weeks in the stench of paper sulfur, oil, and its own flesh, in long puddles broken up by grooved cement mirroring the sky above, cerulean smoke puffs of white. 3 weeks and no one has come to bury it. Again and again and again I look in the rearview mirror, but I can't see its expression. Dear Salish Sea, I wonder what you would think of us now, how we walk with our lips closed as tightly as the oysters you carry, how we blow smoke that turns your reflection to steel. We have learned coldness from your waters, have turned away from you as a source of strength. You gladly swallow our bottle caps and plastic wraps, then lay them at our feet like humble offerings asking us to change. You used to be seen on a miles-long shore near my home. That shore has been reduced to a sanctioned square behind a chain link fence downtown, hidden behind dizzying skyscrapers that cut the land like teeth through the gum. You used to float otters. Now all you float is aimless driftwood I turn into deconstructed dream catchers. Like your receding shore, traditional knowledge of the craft left me behind in the hourglass of time. But in you, I see the tenacity and resilience of my Chippewa foremothers showing me what it means to adapt. Your presence is hope, a love letter to the future. Trickle down. I thought I grew up in poverty until I realized I was only made to feel that way. Trickle-down economics says cut taxes for the rich and their money will flow like wine down a pyramid of goblets, filling first their own, then cascading down, down, down. But any waiter could tell you that only makes a blood-colored puddle in broken glass. When I was 3, my father had to take an economics class for his master's in business, which he worked on in the evenings at home after work. At the start of the night, he'd go out and buy a 6-pack. When it was gone, he'd go out and buy a second. When that was gone, he'd go out and buy a third. As the night blurred, the quality of his essay would go down, down, down into something incomprehensible. In the morning, he'd ask my mother to look over it. Just for the grammar, he'd say, since English was his second language. But my mother had to read his textbooks to learn the concepts, to revise, then rewrite the rest of his essay. The degree was as much hers as it was his. But even after AA, when beer became chocolate or hours on Facebook, the money it brought in stayed in his goblet. And I was also asked to read a poem from one of the Pongo youth from one of the books. And I have like a lot of them. I have 4, and I brought them all to the studio. And I even have one from 2003, which was with Lambert House, and it's all LGBTQ youth and allies. And I was just, reading through all of them, deciding which one to share tonight. And just seeing how long Pongo has been doing this work was really powerful. And I noticed a theme in these books, which is about listening. A lot of youth feel like they're not being listened to, and Pongo gives them that chance, not only to be heard, but to write down what they want people to hear. And this poem has a recurring theme around listening. Dear Mom, listen to my story. You should know that if you're struggling, you are not alone. There are others out there struggling with similar situations or the same problems as you. And when I say problems, I don't mean it in a mean way. I mean it in a true, welcoming in your treatment way. Listen to my story. The days were long and cold, long like a bridge, cold like a winter breeze. I heard the pills in the background, in my mother's room, shaking like a baby's rattle. I saw her coming in and out of the house with different people, and then they would leave. And then one day, she left too. I kept waiting by the doors, waiting. I wish she would have listened to my story. Listen to my story. Now I come home from school, I go into the bathroom and hide. I feel like the world is ganging up on me. I feel like cement walls are pressing me together and pulling me apart. I am hiding from the people who are angry at me. I am hiding from my anxiety and depression. My mom and dad and sister aren't here. I am alone. I can tell my days are getting worse. Listen to my story. And that was from Carrie, age 13. So without further ado, I'll pass it back to Leanda.
Thank you for that beautiful reading and your kind words about Pongo, Mateo. Now, I'm sure all of you are wondering how you might join our work or learn more about what we do here at Pongo. First off, it's not too late to make a gift to Pongo. There are a few ways to give. First, using your phone, you can text Pongo And lastly, we encourage you to check out the Pongo bookstore on our website. Pongo has published 16 books of youth poetry in our history, and each volume documents the pain our youth writers endure, the conditions that give rise to it, and the resilience they discover through poetry writing. Use the links in our YouTube chat to register for our training, check out our bookstore, or make a donation. And we'll follow up with you afterwards with links to donate, purchase our youth poetry, and register for our upcoming training. We welcome all of you to reach out to the Pongo team directly if you'd like to learn more and get involved. And that brings us to the close of the evening. Speaking Volumes was made possible with support from Sound Health and BECU, and we want to thank each of them for their sponsorship of tonight's event. And we also want to reiterate our gratitude to our table captains, our board members, and all of our supporters for championing tonight's event and partnering with Pongo in delivering on our mission. Lastly, thanks so much to each and every one of you for joining us tonight, for the gift of your time and treasure, and for helping us commemorate this special occasion. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next year.